Welcome everybody out to sea, out to sea. Well, the end of the world. When's it gonna happen? What is it? What does that mean? This seems to be a very human issue. I'm not sure that other mammals have the concept of there's a beginning of life and an end of life, but who really knows? You know, this kind of seems to be the curse of humanity. You know, like we're aware of the fact that we're going to die, and we don't know what that means. We don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like everyone reacts to that a little bit differently. Now, I can only speak from somewhat modern humanity. My parents grew up in the Cold War era. You know, my grandparents, my parents, the atomic bomb came to fruition in what, the 40s? Around the same time LSD was accidentally created, which I find to be a funny coincidence. But I feel like it was the creation of the atom bomb that really planted this deep seed of the world could be annihilated as far as we know it. You know, like this could all end in a very destructive, violent, horrific, painful manner. It's like, what do you do with that? You know, how do you proceed with that? You know, I guess on some level, the end of the world happens every day. There are small apocalypses every single day. People pass on every day, and people are born every day. There are small apocalypses every single day. But I guess I'm talking more about like the end of the world. You know, the end of this planet as we know it, the end of humanity as we know it. And I feel like that's been a concern ever since atomic energy and the bomb was created. My father was fascinated with Oppenheimer and the creation of the atom bomb. Rest in peace, Dad. And that's a fear we still have. But, you know, with this human condition, with us being conscious of the fact that we're born into this world and we're going to die one day, and we don't know what's going to happen, again, I feel like we all react a little bit differently to that, and I think that's what religion and faith address. You know, you gotta have faith that there's something beyond this terror and hell of the world. I mean, you know, I'm sitting in this peaceful place. It's a beautiful day. There's kids playing. I'm in a park. I'm playing guitar. I'm chilling. It's a beautiful day. But there's still an existential terror within me. And it's kind of always been there, you know. Growing up in Arizona, I learned about Native American tribes, and there are remnants of their lives all over the place. You know, drawings on rock walls and old remnants of structures. It's like someone was here, there was a civilization here, and it's gone now. I remember sitting at a park in Tempe, Arizona, looking up at Hole in the Rock. You know, it's a big hole up in a big clay rock that apparently, like, Yavapai Indians used as a calendar at one point. And I was probably like 7 or so, and was just trying to picture God or the afterlife. You know, from a pretty young age I became philosophical, and it's been a blessing and a curse. The first time that I really experienced death up close, I was probably 8 or 9, and my uncle Howard, rest in peace, he passed away from AIDS, HIV. You know, this was the late 80s. He was a gay man. He was a very kind, gentle man. I remember going over to his apartment in Tempe. He lived there with his boyfriend, and there was nothing weird about it to me, you know. He gave me a Game Boy for Christmas, you know, that was memorable, right? But I always remember him being a kind, gentle man. And he passed away in my great Aunt Gladys's back TV room. She lived in the same townhome kind of project that I grew up in with my mother in Tempe, Arizona. She was a couple blocks up, right? And I spent a lot of time at her house. My mom, you know, raised me. My father wasn't around. So I went over to her place a lot, and she would cook for me, coming from Great Depression area. It's like, you want to eat? You need some food? And I went over there and ate. And she had the old big TV in the back room, and, you know, the TV dinner trays, and the Lazy Boy. And I'd watch MTV. Boy, did I watch MTV. Man, I remember the heyday of MTV. You know, I remember the Red Hot Chili Peppers Under the Bridge video, and all of that, right? A different time, a more simple time, an analog time. Anyways, my Uncle Howard died in that TV room. He caught HIV, and he died of AIDS, and we watched him wither to a skeleton, essentially, and die in his mom's house, right? In the TV room where I watched MTV. I remember how skinny he was. And he was still gentle and kind. Now, this was when there was still a lot of stigma surrounding AIDS and HIV, and he was a gay man. And, you know, I was young, so it's not like my aunt told me this directly, but I think it was my mom who later told me that they were afraid to tell people that he had AIDS due to the stigma. They told people he was dying from cancer. So that was the first experience I had of someone close to me passing on. You know, I remember going to his funeral and my cousin crying, and while I was sad, I've always had a deep curiosity regarding death. Not so much a sadness, but a curiosity. Like, what happens, you know? Like, what happens when we leave here? And I'm still deeply curious about it. You know, not so much in a suicidal manner, but just like, what happens, you know? And when I started taking psychedelics and getting deep into LSD and whatnot, and having experiences where I perceived that I had died and been reborn, it created a bit of a borrowed time mentality. Like, well, I've already died. I've already seen the other side. What does it matter? You know? What does it really matter? I've still always strived to be gentle and helpful and to move within humanity with as much purpose as I can. But I also feel as though I've had immense failures in this life. You know, my attempt to quench this existential desire to know what's next, and, you know, me feeling as though I absorb the energy around me and all over the world, you know, especially since I've been printed out with all the L, I feel too much. I feel too much. It's more than I can handle as far as I perceive. And I've used various drugs to address that. Has it helped? I mean, maybe. I'm still here. But in the long run, it's hard to say, right? Probably not. You know, I wish I would have had more direction, and have not learned that I can check out of myself with drugs. But you know, the LSD and the psychedelics, the ayahuasca, the ibogaine, all these experiences I've had where I feel as though I've passed on to the other side, has that been helpful or a detriment? You know, has it made my life any easier? Do I have any more of an idea of what the hell is going on than anybody else? You know, at one point I thought I did. And looking at that now makes me think that psychedelics maybe do make you insane. And that's why they're identified as psychotomimetic, insanity inducing. You know, giving you this idea that I've seen the other side that other people haven't, and therefore I have something that others don't. It's like, that's bullshit, man. I don't know anything more than anybody else. It's all a mystery. I have no idea what's going on, and on a daily basis I have to do the best I can to get up, try to put a smile on, not be negative, and traverse this chaotic world that on a daily basis it's like, is this gonna be it? When's the world gonna end, right? And from the time I was a young child, I've been taught that the end is nigh. You know, all this global warming shit, and we've destroyed the world, and the end is coming very fucking soon. Is that helpful? You know, I'm not a climate change denier, but is that because of us? You know, does that really do humanity any justice or anything positive to believe that we've destroyed the world, it's our fault, and we're gonna fucking die unless we all get a fucking electric car? Like, what is that, right? I kind of feel like there's a knowledge that we all have this existential seed of like, we're all gonna fucking die, and it's been exploited. You know, one of my younger sisters, when she learned about rising seas and climate change and it's our fault, it sent her off the rails, man. It scared the shit out of her, and I think it contributed to her checking out of society and doing drugs. Because when we're taught that like the end is nigh, we've destroyed the planet, and we're gonna die really fucking soon. You know, Al Gore on his private jet saying, we're all gonna fucking die in 10 years, dog, unless you get an electric car. It's like, yes, it's obvious that like we've stamped out this earth pretty good, man. We've done some damage. The pollution is obvious and shocking and terrifying. And it's like, when is this all gonna end, man? What do we do with that as humanity? You know what I mean? And I feel like whatever wisdom I feel I've acquired from my 43 years of life regarding humanity, it seems like we're on this magnetic push and pull between cooperation and rebellion. Cooperation and rebellion. Humanity either cooperates and works together, or we rebel from one another. And it's this constant tug-of-war of cooperation and rebellion. It's almost like it's magnetic. You know, I feel the world is magnetic. The way two positives push away, two negatives push away. You need a negative and a positive to connect. Humanity is this tug-of-war between cooperation and rebellion. And from all the experiences I've had in this world, you know, I feel like I've absorbed this laugh now, cry later mentality. Like, the end could be here at any minute. You know, it could all just go like that. And having grown up in, you know, subjective poverty, I've kind of had this, you know, the laugh now, cry later. If I'm down to my last 20 bucks, instead of tucking it away and saving it with some aspirations for the future, it's like 20 bucks left. Might as well go to the bar and get a few drinks and put some quarters in the jukebox and see what happens next. Laugh now, cry later, SA, know what I mean, Holmes? And that is a behavior that's an outlook that as I'm getting older and have people that rely on me, it's not very helpful, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm at this point where I'm trying to change certain behaviors. You know, my fatalistic outlooks on the world. And I feel that's why people have faith. That's why people choose to have faith in religion and God. Because otherwise we're just dangling, and it's terrifying, right? I envy people that are capable of having faith in religion, because I feel as though it would probably make life a little bit easier and more positive, believing that you have an answer to what happens next. And with my philosophical, analytical mind, I'm not capable of doing that, you know? When we talk about Son of God, I think it's very literal. We're talking about the sun in the sky is God. It keeps coming back. You know what I mean? And so, you know, one day, is it just not going to come back? You know, we have these planets around us that appear to be dead and appear there was maybe life at one point. So I don't know, all the psychedelics I've taken have definitely, I think I was always philosophical, but the psychedelics put that into hyper gear, and then also feeling as though I've died and been reborn. I'm on borrowed time out here, right? Getting addicted to heroin and various sedatives, just trying to ease the existential dread and fear and all the horrors I've seen, all the horrors that happen every day in the world. And it's like I'm here sitting in peace, other than the mosquitoes attacking me, you know. So I mean, it's like, how to proceed? How do I proceed, you know? And another thing about humanity is I feel like corruption is just a function of power. Just the way night is a function of day and love is a function of hate. I'm not sure that humans are capable of wielding power without going corrupt. And, you know, I talked to a pastor one time, and I was saying that I find goodness in humanity with our altruism and our desire to help our brothers and sisters. And he's like, well, I think that altruism falls flat pretty quick when shit hits the fan. And that at our core, we're bad, tainted, corrupt people. It's like, huh, you know, I never looked at it like that. And I think that's a pretty common Christian view, that we're broken, tainted, corrupt beings. We're not good, you know. We're tainted and corrupt. And I mean, I've seen that, right? I mean, I think some people act badly out of their conditions and what they've learned, but some people are just inherently bad, man. Like, there are sociopathic people that do not care if you're hurting or have been hurt or what happens to you. And it's like, what is that, you know? So I don't know, this is just a philosophical video, I mean, just rambling, really, but I feel that all of the drug use and my desire to feel something other, to check out and get a moment of peace, the end of the world, has contributed to that greatly. And, you know, my whole life, you know, I mean, other than, I mean, you got people standing on the side of the road, the end is nigh. You remember 2012, the Mayan calendar? That was supposed to be the end. You know, and in retrospect, things have been weird as fuck ever since 2012. You know, maybe the Mayans had something there. That, I mean, apocalypse does not necessarily mean, boom, the end, but it's like great change. Whether it be announcements that we've destroyed the planet and it's going to end really soon due to pollution, or God is coming back to destroy the place, he's fucking pissed. I don't know, I feel like we're constantly inundated with this mystery that we're going to die really soon. The end of the world is coming really soon. You know, it's spoken about in the Bible, which I view the Bible as a book of stories. You know, when I read the Bible, I view it as though I'm reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, right? It's books of stories. I do find it interesting that the story of Adam and Eve, you know, they were not aware of a beginning and an end. It was just innocence and joy. And he's like, dog, don't eat from that tree there. You don't want to do that. And they ate from that fucking tree, which might have been iboga or, you know, who knows what it was. And then they wanted to cover themselves and were ashamed. And now you know there's a beginning and an end. But I guess, you know, coming out of drug addiction and really trying to get out of it once and for all, it's about changing my behaviors and my outlooks. And this laugh now, cry later mentality no longer serves me, right? Like, instead of blowing my last 20 spot, I should save it. You know, viewing life as though it's the end at any time, which it very well could be, right? That's tangible. Is that helpful? You know? And it takes a lot of strength to move through the reality of these thoughts. In reality, right? It takes strength to move through this painful reality. I've known a few characters who were just happy, positive individuals, right? They were like golden retrievers, just happy. Nothing touches them. They're just fucking stoked to be alive. But for the most part, I've been around people that have existential dread. And we've experienced all this pain and garbage, and it's like, why not check out? This could all end at any time. So yeah, I'm probably just rambling a little bit at this point, but I've been growing little gardens for years now. I've gotten good at sprouting stuff from seed and producing vegetables, and I feel like right now that's the best thing I can do to move forward, is learn how to be as self-sustainable as possible. How to feed myself. You know, it's shocking. Here in Middle Tennessee, the only crops are like soy and corn, and a lot of it's not even for food, it's for fuel. Very few people have vegetable gardens, trees in their yard. It's all just lawns. Fucking lawnmower is going from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. constant. And I find it absurd. It's like, this is fertile land that we can be growing food, you know? And so this past season, I grew a bunch of potatoes, a bunch of butternut squash, a bunch of cayenne peppers, I got quite a bit actually. Like, I just made a butternut squash soup with some cream and veggie stock the other night. Fantastic. I got sage and oregano, got a few watermelons, and it's like, things want to grow. It's a fertile world. You just got to give it a little attention, a little love, a little bit of water, and you have abundance that's produced. So that's one very tangible thing that I'm engaging in, to try to shift my mind frame of, we're all gonna fucking die, dog, so who cares? Borrowed time, just blow it and shoot some dope, right? I gotta get out of that mind frame. Because, I mean, I'm 43, it's shocking I'm still alive, everything I've been through, but I'm still here. And I got a few people relying on me that I don't want to let down. And even though maybe I'm ready to move on, you know, at some point it's like, I can't believe everything my head tells me. You know, when we talk about me, I, myself, like, what even is that? I don't know. There's like multiple voices in my head. Some I believe, some I don't. It's like, I mean, I don't hear voices. You know what I'm talking about, though. We talk to ourselves. There's a voice, an intuition. And there's that gut intuition that usually tells us, no, don't do that, or you're on the right track, dog. Stick with it. You know, there's a gut intuition that wants us to live and is positive for us. And then the head, I don't know. now, you know, there's that devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder. But, you know, this is something that we just isn't talked about a whole lot, like the end of the world, you know, like it's kind of shoved down our throats all the time. And it's terrifying, and it's disruptive. And it's like, I don't need to be told that we've destroyed the planet and we're gonna fucking die anytime now unless we buy electric cars. It's fucking bullshit. And I think it's very narcissistic, this idea that we have so much power over the world that it's all us. You know, I think that's one of the maladies of humanity. We're deeply narcissistic beings. And, you know, at the same time, I don't really put so much weight into narcissism because it's just the human condition. We're aware of ourselves. You know, other mammals don't give a shit if they have Nike Airs on or Prada, right? We do. We do. We have this self-image that needs to be upheld. We care. We have an image of ourselves. And we know that we're born and that we die. And the further I'm getting away from not taking psychedelics, you know, at one point when I was totally whacked on psychedelics, I had a very blasé, universalistic view. We're all the same thing, you know, like borders don't exist, you know, nationally, internationally, galactically, like we're all just the same thing, bro. And I can see how insane I was now, like, we need to close up our fucking southern border, dog. Like, we've put it in the hands of Mexican cartel. Like, humanity is real. Like, humanity is savage. It's not just, eh. And that's how I viewed things for a long time. So it's been a real trip surviving long enough to get to a point to where it's like, okay, I've survived. And I see these thoughts and behavior patterns I have. They're not serving me, right? And how do I change that? How do I change that? I have to start engaging in new behaviors. New behaviors. Getting more involved with growing food, becoming sustainable. Like I'm starting to look into canning and storing my own food, jarring stuff without poisoning myself, right? Like I've gotten pretty good at growing vegetables, but how do you store this and keep this stuff? I've never slaughtered an animal. You know, I've never had hens. I buy chunks of chicken from Costco or fish, right? That's not acceptable. I gotta become more sustainable and feel as though I can support myself and care for myself. But, you know, I feel this is just relevant in this day and age. 2024. We're still here. You know, I remember Y2K in the year 2000. Me and my buddies were driving around Seattle in a Honda Civic trying to find a party, right? It was dead. People were terrified. And then when the Mayan calendar of 2012 turned over, people were freaked out about that. And it's like, we keep fucking going. It's not over yet, right? And all these recent storms and disasters that happen all the time. It's like, is this it, you know? And it's all just a mystery. It's all just a mystery. And trying to accept and become comfortable with that can be really difficult. But, anyways, close you out with an E minor. Peace and love, everybody.